hindsight bias is our tendency to believe that we could have predicted an outcome after an outcome is known. It's as if we glance back at the past through a magnifying lens that distorts our memory, making us believe we were more knowledgeable than we actually were at the time of the decision. This knew-it-all-along effect can severely limit our opportunities to learn and grow because it creates a false sense of predictability and undermines our motivation to reevaluate our beliefs and assumptions. In the early 2000s, the cell phone market was flourishing with many players, but one name stood out above all: Nokia. By 1998, Nokia overtook Motorola to become the world's largest mobile phone brand. At its pinnacle in 2007, Nokia had 51% of global market share in mobile phones. If you had asked someone during that era which mobile phone would dominate the market, the overwhelming majority would have confidently pointed to Nokia without a second thought. In the same year of 2007, iPhone was introduced to the market. At first, iPhone faced skepticism and doubts about its potential to compete with established giants like Nokia. However, over time, it gained traction and started to reshape the mobile phone industry. Fast forward to the present day, the smartphone landscape has drastically changed. Nokia, once the titan of the industry, faced a significant decline and struggled to keep up with the fast-paced innovation of competitors. Looking back, it's easy for people to claim that they knew the iPhone would become the dominant force in the market. In reality, the success of the iPhone was not guaranteed, and there were many skeptics during its early days. Another example of hindsight bias is the rise of former President Barack Obama. Before he achieved his stunning victory over Hillary Clinton for the Democratic Party's presidential nomination, Obama was a relatively unknown senator, and his chances of securing the nomination were uncertain and debated among political analysts and the public. However, once the dust settled, many people started to assert confidently that they had foreseen his success all along. They painted a picture of themselves as astute political analysts or savvier judges of character than they truly were at the time. In reality, before the event unfolded, the outcome was far from clear-cut. Obama's rise to prominence was driven by a combination of factors, including his compelling charisma, his message of hope and change, and a well-executed campaign. But those elements were not necessarily evident or guaranteed to lead to victory from the outset. Leaders often face a difficult task of encouraging their teams to undertake risky ventures. Team members, rightfully concerned about potential negative outcomes, may fear that they will bear the brunt of the blame if things go awry, particularly if they backed the project vocally. This issue is magnified by hindsight bias, which leads team members to incorrectly assume that the causes of a project's failure were predicted from the start. When things go wrong, both leaders and team members might falsely claim they had foreseen the risk and assign blame to each other, thereby creating a detrimental blame culture. Narcissists are innately driven towards self-aggrandizement, so are they more prone to hindsight bias, the tendency to assert, "I saw it coming all along," because it bolsters their self-image? The answer is not clear-cut. Interestingly, narcissists displayed a heightened hindsight bias when their predictions are proven correct. This was clearly demonstrated during the 2016 United States presidential election, when 10 personality psychologists branded Donald Trump a narcissist. Trump's assertion that he had predicted the Iraq War better than anybody is a classic example of the hindsight bias. However, the narrative changes when narcissists' predictions are off target. To shield their self-image, they display a reverse hindsight bias, insisting that the outcome was impossible to predict, even for them. The aftermath of the 2007 to 2010 financial crisis saw Wall Street bankers resorting to this very narrative, claiming that the crisis blindsided everyone. However, the U.S. Congress Financial Crisis Inquiry Commission refuted the claim, arguing that the crisis was both predictable and preventable. The Commission's report forcefully stated, "The greatest tragedy would be to accept the frame that no one could have seen this coming, and thus nothing could have done. If we accept this notion, it will happen again." For narcissists, they are driven by an innate desire to protect and promote their self-image, whether they exaggerate their foresight or deny any possibility of having foreseen an adverse outcome. What makes hindsight bias especially insidious is when it works together with bias blind spot. We are quick to identify the hindsight bias in others, but fail to recognize it in ourselves. It's a stark reminder of the importance of self-awareness in reducing those biases, creating more balanced judgment and fairer decision-making. Start observing your decision-making process and those of others around you. See if you can spot instances of hindsight bias. Please feel free to share your comments below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.